Hi, welcome to East to West WLS, the podcast, where we support the bariatric community with humor, humility, and honesty. I'm April, and I'm the West.
And I'm Jason, and I'm the East.
Today, we are welcoming a fabulous member of our community, Miss Charity. Hi, Charity.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. We are so excited to be able to connect with you. I mean, Jason and I have been following you for a very long time, and we, of course, enjoy interacting with you. You're a patron of East to West. You're all the things that we absolutely love about this community. And I think what Jason and I appreciate most about you is your honesty when it comes to everything that you have been through along your bariatric journey. And it has been everything. I mean, I don't think you have missed any bump along the road whatsoever. So we very much value and appreciate just how open and honest you are with the community about explaining how all of the things have happened. And we're really excited today to talk about how you've kind of grown into your relationship with your skin and with your new body through all of it. So our conversation is really going to focus on skin, but we're also going to have the opportunity to kind of understand your story as a patient because it's quite involved. It's quite involved.
A little bit.
A little bit. So before we dive in, we would love for you to just maybe kind of briefly introduce yourself to our listeners and our followers and our watchers. If you feel comfortable sharing your age, where you live, what type of weight loss surgery you had and when, how much you've lost, and then why you are so passionate about supporting our community.
Sure. So my name is Charity. I am at wanderlust.wls on Instagram. I am 32 years old, married and a mom, and I'm from Arizona. So I had the vertical sleeve gastrectomy in October 2019, and then after just a couple complications, I ended up with a revision to Roux-en-Y in December 2020. And currently I am in maintenance. I've officially been in maintenance since about April, and I'm maintaining approximately 160-pound weight loss overall. Thank you.
Amazing.
Thank you. And one of the things I'm most passionate about is when I started my page, because this is my everything page. It's my personal page. It's my journey page. I do everything on this Instagram. And so when I kind of transitioned it over to a weight loss surgery page, it was right when I was in the midst of all my complications, and there was nobody. I didn't have a support system that had been through anything similar to what I had been through. And so I kind of told myself while I was in the hospital, if I can be that person for just one person, that's what I want to do with this page. And so that's kind of been what I've done. I've shared everything along the way, just so that if something that happened to me, even if it doesn't necessarily happen to somebody else, if they can connect with me in some way on some level because they're going through something that they can't find somebody else who's going through the same thing, then I've done what I set out to do. And I have had quite a few people reach out to me and message me because for some reason complications after weight loss surgery is so taboo, which I don't understand. And so that's what I've done. That's what I continue to do. And that's what I hope to do. So.
Well, I think one of the problems that we find about there not being a lot of information about the issues that come about is people tend to look at that as mistakes or errors or failures in the weight loss surgery as a whole, which could possibly scare somebody else from going, actually pulling the trigger on weight loss surgery because they're afraid it's going to happen to them. When in reality, we need more people like you to be brave enough to step up and tell us what's going on, because that way we can kind of pull the veil back on that and make sure that people know, like, well, yes, there could possibly be the complications that we talk about pre-op, but at the same time, it's not the end of the world. Like, you can get around it. Like, there are things in place specifically for when these things happen that we can go through and fix to where you're still on the lighter side of life and still able to, reach the goals that you set out to do. It just may not be in the same way you started out to do it.
Yeah, and it was in the beginning, it was really hard. Anytime I would get feedback, especially from people that I knew. I went through something where somebody who had weight loss surgery, who knew me in my personal life, was actually telling other people that I must have done something to cause what happened to me. And, it was very frustrating to go through it. And I mean, it's still frustrating, but at the same time, like, I've grown so much since then. And I realized, like, there's always going to be people like that. People are going to believe what they're going to believe, and there's nothing I can do to control what you believe. You're either going to believe me and my story or not. That's not my problem. That's a you problem. I tend to believe the medical professionals versus what somebody who doesn't know the whole background says. So that's kind of where where I try and help people too, is just to understand, even with any weight loss surgery, complications or not, you're going to have people who are going to talk whatever they want to talk, and you have to just choose whether or not you're going to focus your energy on it. And I don't anymore.
Wow, that is growth. That's probably a textbook definition of growth. And that's pretty amazing when you are having to grow through something so traumatic that you have experienced, right? So when you need the love and support of people in your life to kind of not have that, right? Or have the opposite of that, has to be very difficult, especially, Jason and I had zero complications when it came to our procedure. So it's very hard for us to understand what those complications are like without people like you in our community who show us this is what's happening and why. And I think with any surgery, there's a risk of complication, right? You can have your wisdom teeth removed and horrible things can happen because of that. But your observation about it being so taboo after weight loss surgery, I think really hits home for so many, because just like what you said, when you go into weight loss surgery, some people in your community, or just some people in general, will think, well, you should have just stopped going to drive-throughs, you should have done this, or more cardio, or, whatever, XYZ, you fill it in. So they're already kind of judging you based on the decision that you've made. And then if you have normal complications that are not outside of the realm of you've had surgery, I can only imagine what that dog pile must feel like, so to speak. Oh my gosh. Okay. Wow. This is going to be an amazing conversation. I can already tell, and we're like 5 minutes in. Holy moly. All right. So today, my friend, the bulk of what we want to talk to you about is really about your skin. How can we learn to love, accept, appreciate the skin that we're in, especially as we kind of go through all of the journeys and all of the changes. And you have really been a champion in our community when it comes to exactly that. So we're very excited to find out how you have done that, and just pass along your wisdom and your knowledge, maybe some tips and tricks to people, so that they can also kind of find this place of acceptance. Maybe not love, maybe not like happiness, but just, this is my body, this is where I'm at, and how do I love and care for it? So that's going to kind of be the gist of our conversation. So if you guys are ready to dive in, I think we should get going. You ready?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. Okay, so Charity, first things first, will you, I guess, go a little bit deeper and tell us how did you end up making the decision to have VSG, and then what led to your revision? Kind of walk us through that very interesting time in your life.
Sure. So I have been obese my entire life. I came out of the womb at 8 pounds, 13 ounces, 2 months premature, and I've just been overweight my entire life. I've always been very healthy. It's never been something that has necessarily affected my health in any way. Obviously, the older you get, the more it begins to affect your health. And I have had some medical things, like I have a bulging disc in my back. None of it was weight related, but obviously having extra weight exacerbates those problems. Mm-hmm. So I have tried every diet known to man. I've done, Weight Watchers, keto, low carb, low fat, low calorie. Like I've done it all. And I would be very successful for a short time. I would lose 75 pounds. I would lose 90 pounds. I would lose 50 pounds. And then not changing anything, continuing the same diet, continuing exercising, everything, I would start to put the weight back on. And it would go on. And eventually I would gain everything that I had lost plus some. Mm-hmm. And so after I was married, when my husband and I started trying for a baby, I actually ended up being diagnosed with PCOS. I was essentially deemed entirely infertile. We tried multiple rounds of fertility treatments. They basically told me I could try IUI, IVF, but the likelihood of it taking was pretty slim for the cost. And so we decided against that. And we decided that we were going to adopt. We actually are foster parents, and we have beautiful children, and we're very grateful for that. However, we do still want to have a child of our own. One day I just decided I was going to go to this seminar for bariatric surgery, just to see, I was happy. I always say I was perfectly happy fat. My husband loved me fat. I loved me fat. I didn't have a problem with being fat. But I was just, obviously it's frustrating. They tell you one of the best ways to control your PCOS is through weight loss. But then in the same breath, they're telling you, oh, but weight loss is going to be really hard because you have so many hormonal imbalances. Yeah. And so I was like, you know what? Okay, I'm just going to go. So I went to the bariatric seminar and a page came up specifically about PCOS. And it talked about how, I don't remember the exact number, but it was somewhere around like in 85% of cases, symptoms of PCOS are lessened and fertility rates increase exponentially. Mm-hmm. And so it was that moment when I was like, okay, if this is what I need to do, for Cody and I to have a child, then I'm willing to do this. And obviously, it's never really been about vanity for me, but in the process, losing weight, being healthier, and then that was also when we actually got our first placement, and who we have since become permanent guardians of, our twin 3-year-olds. They were twin 1-year-olds at the time, and I just wanted to be able to keep up with them and run around with them and experience things with them, and so I decided, all right, this is it. So that was in May of 2019, and I did my 6-month pre-op program. It flew on by. I did all the testing, and then in October I had my VSG surgery. Mm-hmm. And everything went beautifully. 4 days after surgery, I was at the pumpkin patch. God. I had the easiest recovery from VSG. I seriously was able to do things. We traveled to San Diego. We had a foreign exchange student with us at the time, and we went to the beach. So the first 6 weeks after VSG were great. I had no problems whatsoever. All of my post-op appointments were good. Everything was great. And then week 7 came along, and I ended up getting the flu. And so I could not keep anything down. I was diagnosed with the flu. I'll say that. We still don't know if that's what it was or if it was the complications beginning. I never had a flu test done or anything like that. So I ended up going to outpatient, and I got a banana bag. If you don't know what that is, it's just a big bag of fluids. It looks like pee. I think that's why they call it a banana bag, because it's yellow. Oh. And it's just a bunch of vitamins and minerals. And if you end up dehydrated because you're not getting your water in, typically that's what they'll give you, is a banana bag. So I got that done. And then that night, I could not physically stand. I had to be helped into bed. I slept the entire next day. I could barely get out of bed to go to the bathroom. And I just associated everything with complications from the flu, because I was told that I had the flu. And so I just thought everything was the flu. And so that next night, I ended up waking up at 3:00 in the morning in the worst pain I've ever experienced in my entire life. From my neck all the way down to my groin felt like it was on fire. I couldn't even lift my arm. The shoulder pain was so bad. Mm-hmm. My heart was absolutely racing. The room was spinning. It was bad.
I remember posts that you or Cody was making on Instagram, and it was like, oh my God, this is really, really, really not good. This is life-threatening, not good.
Well, yeah. So I ended up calling. Cody was at work because he was working overnight, and I called him, and the one time he couldn't get off the range, and obviously all I'm thinking about is I can't leave the kids home, mm-hmm. I can't leave them home. We had a 17-year-old, she was fine to stay with the kids alone, but in my head, none of that was processing. We had friends I could have called that would have come, but I was just like, no, I can't go until Cody gets home. So it ended up being about 3 hours. So he finally got home. He literally had to basically carry me to the car. And we live kind of out in the boondocks of our town. So we're a 30-minute drive from the hospital. And so he finally gets me in the car, gets me to the ER. And when I knew it was bad was when I got up to the desk at the ER. They asked me what was wrong. I told them. And instead of having me go to the waiting room, they rushed me straight to triage. And that's when I knew it was bad, because if you are from where I am from, you know, at the ER, you got yourself a 6 to 12 hour wait to see a doctor. So I was rushed back, and I remember being stripped in the hallway, having IVs put in my arm while I was still standing, doctors taking vital, and then that's all I remember. From that point, everything was told to me. The one thing I do remember after that was I woke up and my mom was at the end of my hospital bed. And I remember thinking that was so weird because she lived an hour away. And so I was like, what are you doing here? You know, and so after that, I don't remember anything. So to make a very long story short, what ended up happening was my body was in septic shock. The official diagnosis was sepsis. There was so much fluid in my abdomen. I actually had what they call a pleural effusion, which is where my esophagus had leaked so much fluid into my abdomen. I ended up with a compressed lung, and I had to have a thoracentesis done.
Oh my God.
So long story short, I was rushed to the OR. My bariatric surgeon was called in. She ended up doing a laparotomy. And if you don't know what that is, a laparotomy is just an open abdominal surgery. And so I have a scar now from chest to belly button from that. Couldn't find the leak. So after multiple hours on the operating table, her trying to find it, she ended up closing me up, and I was flown to a bigger trauma hospital in Phoenix where they could deal with me. I was placed, I don't think I was placed in, I always say a medically induced coma, but I think I was just like sedated. I don't think I was actually in a coma or anything, but they sedated me. I had an NG tube placed, everything like that. And so I was flown to Phoenix, and in Phoenix, I was in the ICU. I woke up and I was like, what is this thing down my throat? Get it out. So I took it out and I got in trouble.
Oh, you took out your own tube?
Twice.
What? Okay, gangster.
I took it out twice. The nurses were furious, but the doctor was like, if she's well enough to take out her own tube, like, she's good. So, but obviously, I'm not recommending you do that, because you can do a lot of damage if you take out your own NG tube. Yes. But yeah, so I was like, no thanks, took it out. I had no idea where I was. My parents were there. And so it was all explained to me, like I said, everything that I just explained. And I woke up, I think it was 2 days later that I woke up. So all of this had passed. They had been trying to figure it out. They couldn't find the leak, like nothing. They were calling it a leak. Like I said, it ended up being what they call a pleural effusion. So when you hear leak, you think along your staple line ruptured, you ate something you shouldn't have eaten, you caused, or, it just didn't heal correctly, whatever. No. What actually happened to me was where my esophagus met my sleeve ruptured, it perforated. And so not along a staple line, nothing like that. And so that's what happened to me. So I ended up being in the hospital for 3 weeks, and I was NPO, which means nothing by mouth. The only thing I drank from or ate from November 24th, 2019 until January 18th, 2020, what year are we in, was contrast for the swallow studies, which is absolutely disgusting. Barium contrast is gross. So that's the only thing I had the luxury of drinking by mouth during that time. Everything else was given to me through an IV. I had a PICC line, and all of my nutrients were given via TPN, which is total, I never know how to say it, total parenteral nutrition. And so I was being pumped with 2,000 calories a day, and all of my nutrients and everything like that. So I also, I bet you could guess it, didn't lose any weight. I went into the hospital at 240 pounds approximately in November. And in February, by the time I was back eating and drinking on my own, I was 240 pounds. So I always call that was my first major stall.
Yeah, not on 2,000 calories a day. You're not going to lose
exactly. And that was my goal for getting off of the TPN, was because I was like, I do not want this many. I'm like, it was really hard for me to process not losing any weight that whole time because I was still so freshly pre-op.
Yeah.
And my surgeon was like, chill, like,
oh yeah,
you almost died. Like, we don't care about you losing weight right now.
Right. They just want to make sure your body has the nutrients and the energy to do the healing it needs to do. So
exactly. So yeah, so I was in the hospital for 3 weeks. I ended up having to do physical therapy to relearn to walk. I could not get myself in or out of bed. I had to be lifted in and out of bed for the first 2 weeks that I was in the hospital. I had to have nurses on either side of me, holding on to me, taking baby steps at a time. And so before I could leave the hospital, I had to prove to them that I was able to walk on my own. So did that. So December 14th, I was released from the hospital, came home on home health. Cody ended up being trained on how to do all of my nutrition, all of my IV medication, everything like that. Bless him. I could not have survived all of this without him. He took care of the kids entirely the entire time I was in the hospital. He did all of my home health stuff. I had a nurse come once a week to change my dressing on my PICC line and to take labs. Cody did everything else. So yeah, that's just the lowdown. That's not even the full story. So essentially they repaired it by doing what they call a bear claw through an EGD. So they repaired it and I went home. I did a very slow return to eating. So I started on liquids. I did liquids for literally what felt like forever. So from February to June is when I did my process of getting back on foods. In June, I started back on solid foods entirely. And by August, I was back in the hospital with a leak again. So,
was it in the same place as your first leak, or was it a new place?
Yeah.
Oh, so
no,
where
it was
they
the
did
same place.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh.
And so basically after that hospital stay, they were like, this is just going to keep happening. The only thing that we can do is a revision. And obviously this is in the middle of a pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing was getting done. I actually had an open incision from my laparotomy from November all the way until June when they finally repaired it. I was packing it myself every single day because I couldn't let it close.
My God.
And because they were going to repair it in March, but then like right when we went to schedule it, they closed down all surgeries. And tell me how it was considered elective, but whatever. So I was packing it myself. So finally that was repaired in June. But yeah, so then in August, and so basically after that hospital stay was a week long. They repaired it again with the same way with the bear claw. And they basically said, look, you need a revision. Until you can get a revision, you cannot eat certain things. So I was basically on a soft/pureed diet from August through December 2020, which people are like, oh, that's probably why you lost so much weight. No, I had to eat so many calories because the soft pureed foods are way higher in calorie than meat.
Oh, yeah.
And so where I could eat 4 ounces of chicken and get like 150 calories, I was having to eat like 300 to 400 calories of yogurt or cottage cheese to get the same amount of protein. So it was, I was eating still kind of a very high calorie diet for what, and so yeah, that was very hard not having a regular diet. But then in December 2020, I ended up going to a more high-risk bariatric surgeon in Scottsdale, and because my surgeon locally was not comfortable doing the revision because she was like, this is a one-time thing. You need to go to someone who knows, because that's the thing is what happened to me, 0.05% is how often it happens.
Jesus.
So I am my surgeon's only case of it ever happening. And so it was a little, obviously she was a little concerned. Wow. So I ended up going to a more high-risk bariatric doctor to get my revision done. And I had my gallbladder out at the same time because during my pre-op testing, they found my gallbladder was full of gallstones. So who knows if I was having gallbladder attacks because I was literally just in pain pretty much all the time. So had my gallbladder out, had my revision, and My revision is not like a typical revision, because obviously most of the time revisions are done for like GERD purposes, if you have really bad reflux issues, or regain. So mine was not for any of that. When I had my revision done, I was already at 180 pounds. And so they were like, we're not doing this for you to lose more weight, you know? And so they ended up placing, when you get a bypass, you get something called a stoma done, which is where they basically create the hole for your food to pass through into your pouch. And so my stoma is actually larger than a typical bypass patient stoma, because they were like, we can't, because of where the perforation is, they can't remove that part. And so it's always going to be there. It's always going to be a risk. So they did a bigger stoma so that it's easier for food to pass through. And so long story short, when they figured out everything, I ended up being on the table for my revision for 4.5 hours. What was supposed to be a 60 to 90 minute surgery took 4.5 hours because it was so bad. They seriously were like, we didn't even know what we were going into. And it wasn't until we got in there. So essentially, this is layman's terms. I am not a doctor. I am not a medical professional of any sort. This is from my experience. This is me telling you, please take everything I say with a grain of salt. Don't go to your surgeon and be like, is my sleeve going to fold like a taco? So basically what happened was, my sleeve, your typical sleeve, looks like this, like it's kind of like a little banana. And so what they thought had happened was they thought my sleeve had twisted, which is actually more common than what happened to me. No, what happened was my sleeve actually had like folded in on itself. And so that was why food was not able to pass through. And so if you don't know, with the sleeve, your sleeve is a high pressure system. And so when it passes through and it goes into your sleeve, it's a high pressure. It waits for it until it passes through. So with the bypass, this is why bypass patients have more of a risk of dumping and things like that, because the bypass is a very low pressure system and food passes through a lot quicker. That's why bypass people typically have more deficiencies. They have dumping syndrome more often, because the food passes through so quickly. Your body is not absorbing as many of the nutrients and like the sugars going through faster. So fun fact. So they switched it to a low pressure system with the bypass, and they're just kind of hoping, you know, with that pressure won't cause the perforation to reoccur. And so I've been kind of good since then. I actually was hospitalized again in February because they thought I was having another leak, but it ended up just being strep.
You know,
finally something normal.
Well, that's the thing. They're like, oh yeah, it's strep. And I was like, I have strep throat in my abdomen. And they were like, no, like strep is just a bacteria. Like it's one of the 3 most common bacteria. So I had the bacteria strep in my abdomen. I had an infection, which was mimicking all the same signs of a leak and everything like that. So I was in the hospital. They flew me to Phoenix again because they thought I was having a leak. And so I was in the hospital for a week. They got it all taken care of. Since then, I've been good. So.
Been logging those medical air miles, boy. I'm telling you, you should get a punch card for that.
Let me tell you, the first time I took the helicopter ride, my insurance covered it. This time, apparently, my insurance is not covering it. So I now have a $45,000 bill.
Oh, hail to the no. Hail to the no.
What? $45,000? Those helicopters aren't even that comfortable. No thanks.
It was awful.
Oh my God. Oh my God. So how are you like mentally processing all this? Like, how are you talking to us today in like English words? Like, I don't understand. I'd be like a basket case in a mental health ward somewhere.
I was for a while. Obviously after everything first happened, I had Okay, so I was for a while. I actually had, while I was in the hospital, I had my first ever panic attack. I never really dealt with mental health struggles prior to surgery or anything like that. And now I do have panic and anxiety attacks in medical settings that are outside of my control. Typically, the radiology department is where it's the worst because that's where most of the traumatic things happened. I was diagnosed with PTSD after my hospital stay, but the longer it goes away from all the complications, the less traumatized I am, I feel like. And they told me that was in the hospital. They're like, oh, 6 months from now, you won't remember. And obviously, when you're going through that, you're like, are you kidding me? Like, and it's not that I don't remember. It's just that now it's a memory. It's not something I'm actively going through anymore.
Yeah.
I still have that fear in the back of my head because I feel like all of the complications happened, like the second leak happened 9 months after my surgery, 10 months after my surgery. So I still feel like, oh, it could still happen, but honestly, I don't want to live like that. I don't see the point in living like that. Like I'm at a healthy weight. I'm able to do things. I'm not going to live my life in fear of, am I going to go through this again? If it happens, it happens. We'll deal with it when it happens. I've dealt with it twice.
Yeah.
What's a third time? Just kidding. I hope it doesn't happen again.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure that you're doing things too to help mitigate this. I mean, are there things that they have told you like avoid or don't do, or this could be causing it, or this is just how your body is set up internally? And wow. Wow.
Yep. There's nothing there's nothing that I could do. If it's going to happen again, it's going to happen again.
Okay.
Like I said, that's why with the last time they had me on such a strict diet, they said, you can't live like that for the rest of your life. So that's why at this point, I'm doing everything normally. And we're hoping that this was the fix that we needed to fix it and I can move on. But unfortunately, if it's going to happen again, it's going to happen again. And we'll have to deal with that when it does.
Well, and it makes sense as to how you're able to kind of look at it the way that you do, given the fact that they kind of told you that, like, there's really nothing you can do. It's just going to be. So, I mean, at that point, for you to make the conscious effort to say you're not going to live with that, waiting for that next shoe to drop, that's really all that shift in mindset that it takes to be able to do that, which is amazing. So, the biggest thing for me with everything that you've gone through, and every time I hear the story, it's like a punch in the gut all over again. Like, I just can't. It's just so amazing to me that you've made it out the other side. But on top of that, how positive you are to other people who are going through surgery, who are about to have it, who've already had it, like all of these things. Like, you stay a positive voice in the community, and given everything that you've come through, that's just amazing to me.
So my first hospitalization, I didn't have very many followers because, like I said, I wasn't necessarily a weight loss page at that point. But I was not. It was a very negative experience. I was very depressed. I felt like there was no light at the end of the tunnel. My husband had to live through me being just awful, I'm sure, and it wasn't. It was bad. And I don't sugarcoat it. It was bad. There were days when I literally thought like it would probably be easier if I would have just stayed at home and died with the sepsis. Because they told me, 5 more minutes at home, you would have gone unconscious and you wouldn't have woken up. So obviously throughout that time, that was my mindset. That was what I was thinking, it would be easier. Then when I was hospitalized again in August, I basically told myself I have two choices. I can be miserable and the nurses can hate coming into my room and hate visiting me, and because it was in the middle of COVID, so my husband couldn't come visit. I couldn't have any visitors, so it was just me and the nurses hanging out all the time. So I told myself, like, what's the point? Why? And the other thing was I told myself, I'm living through this. I'm surviving through this. Other people are watching me thinking this could happen to them. So what am I going to portray to them? Am I going to portray that, life sucks, this is horrible, like, don't do it? No, it's something I'm going through. I'm surviving through it, and I'm fine. It's something that I have to go through. And if you have to go through it too, that's the number one question I get. Do you regret having surgery? No, I would do it again. I would start with the bypass. But hindsight, and to be where I am now, my husband and I have been given the okay to start trying for a baby, and you know, to be here now, be at a healthy weight and everything like that, I would go through it again, and I would go through the complications again. And that's, you know, there's no point in being negative, because then that's just going to make it's going to make me miserable, and it's not going to make people want to hang out with me, and I want to have friends.
Right. Well, and I think there is a point of being negative, because you when I saw you from the outside, it wasn't that you were being negative. You were just being very honest about what you were going through, and what you were going through was awful, life-changing, awful in the worst possible ways. So there is nothing to sugarcoat there, because that was your experience. But the fact that you could come to the place where you could say, wow, even in this really horrible situation, I still have a choice about how I'm going to choose to move through it. And you gave a masterclass in how you choose to move through a, you know, open ranch size field of shit. Like you gave the path for doing that, because you're almost doing a disservice, I think, when you do sugarcoat things. But you didn't. You said, nope, here's what I'm going through. This is awful. This is painful. Oh my gosh, I'm so scared. I'm mad. I'm angry. I'm upset, which is all a very normal human emotion and reaction to what you were going through. And to come out of that and say, I actually still have a choice in this. Oh my God, right? Which a lot of us can't get to. We just think, woe is me, and this, you know, this happened to me because X, Y, and Z, and there's nothing I can do about it. Well, you can put your trust in the experts and the medical doctors and in the nurses and the people who helped you, but you do have a choice how you move through that as an individual.
And I think there's a big difference between being honest and being negative. And I choose honesty, you know, because I don't see the point in sugarcoating. You know, I live my life honestly. I go through this journey honestly, and you know, and that's the thing, is it took my husband a long time to get to where I am. He still to this day is not to where I am with the whole thing. He still has a very negative outlook on all of it, which understandably so. He lived it from the outside looking in. Like I said, he had to go through all of it with me. He had to watch his wife, you know, almost die. And so he blames the doctors. He blames, you know, whoever he needs to blame to get through it. And that's fine. That's how he processes it. But for me, I still need to have a working relationship with my surgeon and my, you know, my bariatric center locally. So, and it wasn't their fault. I don't blame them. Nobody could have predicted this to happen. So, because people always ask me, oh, was it something that happened during the surgery? No one knows.
No.
And what's the point? What's the point in, you know, speculating? Because am I going to guess, or are we just going to say this happened, it's done?
Well, I mean, you could walk out of your house and be struck by lightning. There's a percentage of that. You could get in your car and get an accident, and who, you know, I mean, like there's a percentage of that's why there's people called actuaries who figure this shit out. You have a chance of something wrong going wrong every single day. So are you going to live in that fear, or are you going to make the move forward? Because, you know, the other thing that I think that your husband and people who have not struggled with weight as we have, you can't factor in what that weight is actually doing to you, right? You can't factor in what that is costing you. So when you're looking at all of this cost benefit analysis, only we can factor that in, because we know what that feels like to live with that excess weight.
Right. Well, and the limitations not on top of that. Like we know how limited we are versus, you know, pre-op versus what we are post-op. And the crazy part about what, you know, April, what you just said, is you probably had a higher likelihood of being struck by lightning than she did what happened to her going wrong, especially twice. So
yes,
you should have bought some lotto tickets or something, so she could have got something out of the deal, because that's the most ridiculous part out of the whole thing to me, is just the fact that the likelihood of it happening 2 times. But Carrie, one of the things that you touched on about when you started your, you know, when you really started putting more stock into your account and really kind of you know, keeping the diary of what's going on with you through the whole process, is, you know, you wanted to help, if you could just help one person. And I think that's what a lot of us start out trying to do with our, you know, with the account of what we're going through. And, you know, once we get that one person, we feel like, you know, we've done a lot, but then you start getting more, and the more and more people you do, the more honest you are, the more you want to really bring everybody in to show everybody the whole side, the whole story versus just the good part of the story. And that's why I think our community here on Instagram is in such a good place right now, is because people like you made that decision to be able to do those things. And we now can see all sides of things, because before it's you go to YouTube if you want to see bad stuff, you go to Facebook if you want to be bullied about how you are or aren't doing something right. Well, now it's coming out. What I'm finding out following a lot of people that have had surgery on TikTok is TikTok is a lot like Facebook, but it's more like Facebook and Twitter combined have come together to make this just abhorrent two-headed baby that just likes to bully everybody in the VSG community or the weight loss surgery community as a whole, because that's really a lot of what you get. You put on there and bare your soul about what's going on, and you got people in the comments telling you how, well, I had it and I'm doing this and you should be doing this like I'm doing this. And it's, that's why I kind of really adore what we have on Instagram, is because it's so supportive compared to some of the other platforms. And it's all because people like you decided to actually start putting, the real life experiences on there.
Yep, absolutely. So let's shift gears. Let's find out about how you have come to love your skin through all of these changes, because the surgery alone, your skincare has to be a very different process now, because your skin has been open so many times. Oh my God, I can't even imagine. So what has that been like? What is your relationship with your skin and with your size and shape now?
So I have a hard time processing all my scars. I had a hard time processing them. I look back at pictures pre-op and even post-op, and I see the way my abdomen looked and everything, and I always picture what would my abdomen look now if I didn't have any of these scars, because that's the thing, is even my laparoscopic scars had already started healing when I had my complications, and so my abdomen was already looking pretty good. And so now, like I said, I have a chest to belly button scar that's been opened twice. So it's a little wonky because the bottom part of it had to be corrected and restitched. And then I have had a total of 10 drains. And so I have scars from all of those drains because they were in for so long. And then I've had 3 different PICC lines. And so I have scars on my arms from my PICC lines. I have my scars from my revision, never really healed. Well, they healed, but they scarred. And, because the more trauma your body goes through, the less easily it heals. And so I do have scars from that. So basically my abdomen is one big scar at this point. And so it did take a really long time for me to accept what it looks like. But again, it was one of those things where, okay, I can look at it and I can hate the way it looks and I can pick apart the way it looks. I already have enough people doing that for me. Or I can say, hey, guess what? Whenever the time comes for plastics, I already have a vertical scar. And so my plastic surgeon is going to be able to do a 360 tummy tuck, and I don't have to worry about, am I going to have a scar? Because I already have one. And it's going to look way better having a plastic surgeon do it and fix it than it does right now.
Truth. Well, I saw the other day you posted pictures of your life. You have a new pool in your backyard and it just looks like a freaking Vegas tropical oasis. And you have the most adorable bathing suit on, and it's a bikini. And I was like, yes, girl. Yeah. And you can very prominently see your scar, but I just thought, fuck yes. I was just like, this is what life is all about. Because for me, when I see those pictures of you, and I think Jason probably feels the same way too, and he kind of reflected on this over Father's Day weekend, but it's like, I spent so many years of my life covering up my body, being ashamed for it, but it was really just in my head. Yeah, there are other people out there, blah, 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 blahing, but the most negative person in my life was actually me. right? And I still struggle with that a little bit. But when I see people like you and others in our community that are just like, this really doesn't matter. I mean,
No.
this is an indication of what I've been through, but in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter. And I'm the only one that's saying that it does. And it's like, okay,
I
I can.
always say my appearance is the least interesting thing about me, but my scars tell a story, and it's an interesting story. So that's the way I look at it.
See, that's amazing,
Oh,
because see, I attribute that same thing to when moms talk about stretch marks and they freak out about having stretch marks or scars or any of that. That's, or C-section scars are a big thing that, women are, that I hear a lot of women talk about, reference, and when they're, talking about their body. And to me, that's, I mean, that those are battle scars. Those are war with, like, you went to battle for something. You raised a child, like you grew a life inside of you. Like, you like applaud that shit. Like, that's amazing. Like, that's not
yeah.
something everybody can do. So yeah, I applaud that shit 100%. And to me, getting comfortable with even with my body, it's kind of been a weird ride for me, because I'm still not there yet. Like, I'm getting better. I've started going to the gym and stuff, so things are starting to kind of move around a little bit for me. So that's a positive. But I laugh when I think about, society wants us to see all these, for men anyway, it's, if you don't have a 6 or an 8 pack, you don't have you don't have pecs and chest and shoulders and all this stuff just going crazy, then keep your shirt on. Basically, nobody wants to see the dad bod thing and all that stuff. But I laugh when I think back to, everybody gets all this stuff from trends they see in Hollywood. Well, if you actually watch interviews where Hollywood actors have had to shred for a role and they look like, and they're all 6-packed up, listen to them talk about how miserable they were, and cut to them 2 or 3 weeks or months after the whatever, movie shoot they got done with. They don't still look like that, because of what it takes to actually look and maintain that isn't healthy for your body. Mm-hmm. So for us to have these mental images and say, well, I've got to look like that. Well, the people that look like that don't even want to look like that. They look like that for little bits at a time.
Yeah.
Because it's not sustainable. It's not healthy to do. Yeah. So you can go to the gym and you can work out and you can eat right and you can look healthy all day. But to run around with a fully defined 8-pack and, shoulders and stuff jumping out of your skin, it's going to take 4 to 6 hours in the gym every day and eating, calorie counts and stuff that you're just miserable doing. So yeah. I think really kind of the shift in mindset that you've had, Charity, about the way you've embraced yourself, post-op, is really something that we can all take a page out of your book from, and just enjoy the journey that we've been on and what we've been able to accomplish. Because I know right now, without a shirt on, I look a hell of a lot different than I did at 468 pounds.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's the way I see it too. I don't hide my scars. I don't hide my skin. I don't hide my body, because I've worked hard to get this body. And at the end of the day, I wear whatever swimsuit I think is cute. I don't worry about, oh, is it going to show my scar? So what? I mean, I will say you do have to take proper care of your scars, especially when they're going to be in the sun and stuff like that. I know there are, people who choose to cover their scars to protect them, and that's fine. I choose to load up on sunscreen and stuff like that. And kind of use that as a protection, but I'm not going to hide it. I've worked too hard to get here to hide it. And if or when I do get plastic surgery, it's still years out and years down the road. And I'm not going to spend that time hiding my imperfections until I get the perfect body.
I don't know. We've talked to so many amazing people recently. And one of the things that really resonated with me in that conversation was that you're never going to have that perfect body, right? Is that you might have this ideal in your head, but if you're always working to get there, you're never actually going to arrive there. And you've kind of missed the point of enjoying your body and your life and what you have and having fun, because you're always thinking about something that you don't have, instead of just taking a hot minute to be grateful or to acknowledge what you do have and just go do something fun with what you have.
Exactly.
So what are some things that you've done kind of like incrementally to kind of get where you are today? Or is it really just these very intimate conversations that you're having with yourself? And like, what are you saying to yourself, or how are you getting there?
So one of the things that I've learned along the way is the idea of body neutrality. I feel like body positivity is shoved down our throats all the time, and you have to love your body and you have to love the way it looks and you have to be positive about it at all times. And the fact is that no, you don't. I'm not going to I'm not going to stand in front of the mirror and be like, your body is beautiful, your body is perfect, everything is fine, because it's not. There are days when I don't feel like that. And so instead of lying to myself, I stand in front of the mirror and I am neutral about my appearance, because that's the thing. Again, my appearance is the least interesting thing about me. And so instead of looking at the mirror and pinpointing the things that I don't like, I will focus on the things that I do like. And so, I will say, I'm getting definition in my shoulders from working out. And and that's the thing. One of the things that I do, because, it's going to be a while before I can have skin removed or anything like that, I have been going to the gym and I've been focusing on kind of leaning out what I can and toning up. And so one of the things is my arm skin is one of my biggest insecurities. Again, I don't hide it though, because I have to, it's there, it's not going anywhere, it's going to be there. And so what I do is when I go to the gym, I focus on building these bad boys up so that it can kind of compensate for people aren't looking at this if they're looking at my badass bicep. So and that's the thing is I've really noticed a difference. My shoulders have really come a long way, and my chest is one of my favorite parts of my body. Like my collarbones are popping, and, so that's kind of what I focus on. I focus on those things, and the rest of my body, I'm just neutral about, it's there, it's a thing. It's not going anywhere. We're going to accept her. We're going to appreciate her for what she's done for me. But today we're focusing on my collarbones because they look good.
Right?
So.
Girl, there are some days where I'm like, you know what? I'm loving the look of my hands. And that's all I can do, right? Or some days it's like, wow, my eyebrows are just really on point today. Like, I don't give a crap what it is, but if I can't say anything positive about my physical appearance, I'm going to find one thing that I can at least be like, this is good. This is good. And I'm going to call it good, because if I spend my headspace in what's wrong with me and what I'm not happy about, I'm going to crawl into a fetal position in a corner. I mean, that's just not, like you said, we've come too far. And, our appearance is probably one of the first things that people notice. But if that's the only thing that they're going to judge us on, they're missing us.
It's the first thing they notice, but it's the last thing they remember from your encounter.
It truly is.
Yeah. And that's true. And the one thing, I think about it because I'm like, in our journey, the first thing that we want to do is we want to see the changes that we're making in our body. And going to the doctor and getting those positive lab results are great. Like the metabolic wellness side of things is amazing, but that lasts for about that long. Like, you're really cool having those normal doctor's appointments, but after like 2 or 3 of them, you're like, yeah, that's great. That's cool. We already did that. But what I want to see is all this, I want to see the changes. So, for those people that are able to go to the gym, knock it out and really shore up what they've got, that's awesome for you. Like, that's amazing. And we all want to strive to get to that point at one point or another. But, it's like both of you had said, it really makes it a lot easier on you in your journey to just find something to focus on that's positive. And it may not be, it's going to be tough some days. And those days where it comes and knocks you on your ass and you're not ready for it are some of the hardest days, because you'll get up not thinking anything's wrong. And next thing you know, you just got this whole negative sense of what's going on. You start looking in the mirror like, what the hell happened? Like, where did all this come from? Like, because on the other days where you're not seeing it, you're focused on other stuff. So all that other shit just washes out. So you don't think about it. So, if you can shift on those days and find the one thing to be more positive about, it'll make those hard days just a little bit easier.
I force myself out of my comfort zone on those days, and I wear a sports bra and leggings to the gym on those days, because I know that it's in my head. because the day before I was looking in the mirror being like, we looking lean today. So I know it's in my head, you know? And so I'm like, you know what? No, we are going to the gym today. We're not going to have that mindset. I'm going to slap on a pair of high-waisted leggings and a sports bra, and we're going to go lift. And guess what? Nobody's staring at me.
No.
Nobody's worried about what I'm looking like because everybody's at the gym for themselves. And the only reason somebody's going to look at me is because I'm singing because I have my AirPods in and I forgot that everybody can hear me. Nobody's actually looking at what I look like.
That is so true. Oh my God. That is, I freaking love it. I freaking love it. Well, you know, and my struggle with the body positivity movement as well is that I tried for years to be positive about my body and I just couldn't get there. And it just got to the point where it was like, something is wrong with me if I can't be positive about my body. And then it kind of got to the point, it's like, wait a minute, there isn't anything wrong with me. This is okay, right? I mean, if I can get to the place where I can say, you know, I'm not happy about X, Y, and Z, but I'm okay with A, B, and C, and I'm happy about what, right? I'm like, it's going to change day to day. And the crazy thing is that our bodies are designed to change with age and time. We're never going to have the same body day to day, moment to moment. I mean, Jesus, Des is a perfect example. Look how much she has physically changed her body day to day, and like hour by hour, it can change. So, you know, to be positive about my body at all times throughout all of the changes just didn't seem to be something that I could ever achieve. But being neutral about my body and acknowledging, just saying, oh, this is my body, cool. Like, I couldn't even get there before surgery, but now I can look at every piece of my body and not feel shame. I can look at pieces of my body and go, oh, nope, there's my chest, there's my collarbone, there's my knee, oh, there's my upper legs that I don't like the way that they look, but those legs are getting me X, Y, and Z, and they're doing A, B, and C, and this is my physical self. So for me, what's been helpful is just actually, and every time I say this, it sounds weird, but I don't mean it weirdly. Like, I'm okay touching my body now, right? Not in a sexual way, just saying, oh, no, here's my shoulders. Oh, there's my hips, because I couldn't feel them before, right? Now there's places of my body that I can touch with my own hands that I couldn't do before. So this just like exploration helps me and my brain understand, no, this is what my body looks like. This is the shape of it. This is the size of it. This is what it does. I couldn't do that before surgery for whatever reason. And now I have the permission from myself to do that. But what a powerful tool that we now have to get to this place of neutrality, of just saying, nope, this is what it is.
And I think for me too, I'm raising 2 little boys, and I think it's important for them to understand that women's bodies are going to look different. You know, they're not going to look like what you see on TV or anything like that. And that's the thing for them. My 3-year-olds, one of their biggest comfort is playing with my extra skin. They will lay on my stomach and they will knead their hands through my belly skin. Or, you know, we'll be sitting at a restaurant, and if I have my arm over one of them, they'll just be like massaging my, like, and that's, at first I was like, this is like this, it makes me uncomfortable. But then I was like, why? Like, they're 3, they're doing it because it's comforting to them. And and that's what it is for them. And so it just became something where, you know, if, you know, and they always say, oh, mommy belly. And, you know, they trace my scars with their fingers, and they're like, you know, they always say, oh, mommy doctor. And, you know, they know the story. Obviously they know the 3-year-old version of the story, but, you know, and so that it's, you know, I want them to appreciate my body just as much as I appreciate my body, and understand that as they grow older, women's bodies are, you know, going to look different, and their bodies are going to look different. Being a twin, you know, Jack's body is not the same as AJ's body. And so I want them to grow up and understand that everybody's body is going to be different and look different. And it's just something, it's part of life. And it's not something that we need to focus our attention on.
Well, and the view and acceptance from a child is something that we often forget as we age and grow in our own journeys, but it's something that we should all get back to. Because if we could look at ourselves the way that our children look at us, and see us and our children just as a whole look at us, we would be in a much better headspace, because they don't care about any of that. They don't care about your scars, your loose skin, your extra. Like you said, it's comforting to them. They love all parts of mommy. They don't care. They're not worried about you being overweight, underweight, extra
No.
skin. They don't care about any of that. It's part of you, and that's what they love. That's what we need to get back to as ourselves. Remember what that feels like.
And they do, they still see my pictures from pre-op, you know, when I was 300 pounds, and, you know, they're like, oh, mommy pretty, you know, they don't see my size. They see
No.
that it's their mom.
Yes. Well, and they see that you physically changed, but to them, it doesn't matter that you physically changed because, again, your appearance is the least interesting thing about you, the least interesting thing. Oh my gosh. So the last thing we would love to know from you is how are you caring for your skin? What are you doing for your scar care, or what are you doing to nourish and to care for your skin?
Lots of sunscreen. I live in Satan's armpit, so we we go through a lot of sunscreen around here.
I bet you do. I bet you do.
Yeah. So, and, you know, again, I don't stay out of the sun. I know that's obviously the number one recommended thing is staying out of the sun, but I'm here to live my life. So I just protect it as much as I can. I wear sunscreen. I buy the wet sunscreen so that even if I'm in the pool, I can reapply. I make sure the kids have sunscreen. They have learned that we do not go outside until you have sunscreen applied. They even come up to me and ask, you know, mommy, sunscreen. And so that's my biggest thing, is just making sure that I'm using sunscreen every day, all day.
Yes.
And then aside from that, as far as like my skincare routine, like facial skincare, I have dealt with, because of the masks and everything, I've dealt with more adult acne than before. And so I have had to kind of stay on top of that. I don't do anything fancy. Like, we just use like CeraVe from the drugstore. I wash my face every day. I use moisturizer with SPF in it. That's pretty much it. I call it good. And, you know, aside from that, it's really just making sure that I am taking care of my skin, because it's the biggest organ in my body, and it's the only, you know, it's the only one I'm going to get. So
It is. It is. Well, and when our skin starts to really tell a story, it can be important to maintain that story, right? And to keep that story healthy and fresh, because that is who you are. And the thing that I always just baffles me when people make comments about when people comment negatively on people's scars, or when they comment about bariatric surgery. It's like, you really think I can go back in time and reverse this?
well,
Like,
not only that, people say, oh, you've aged. Yeah, I've gotten older. Like,
that's
and
what we're
that's the thing,
supposed
like,
to do.
fat doesn't, I always say fat doesn't wrinkle. Like, fat does not wrinkle. I had no wrinkles on my face when I was a fat person. I have a lot of wrinkles now, but first of all, I've been through multiple traumatic experiences. It's not just weight loss surgery that caused my wrinkles. I'm a parent to 3-year-old twins. That's a wrinkle in itself. But, you know, that's the thing, is like, yeah, I've aged, I've gotten older, and I'm going to continue to age. And I would rather be healthy on the inside and have a few wrinkles on my forehead than just not have wrinkles because I'm fat.
100%. That's one of my favorite things my grandbabies say to me. They say, "Pop up, your beard is shiny." I'm like, "It's shiny because your mom. That's your mom made it shiny like this because she wears me." Your mom and your Uncle Jordan made my beard shiny because they make me crazy. That's why.
Right? I mean, there's nothing that we can do to stop aging. I mean, unless somebody has figured out some biomechanical way to stop the human body from aging, we're all going to age. There is nothing that we can do to stop this train from moving down the tracks. And
if you choose to do Botox and stuff like that, more power to you. That's a choice you can make. I'm not spending money on getting rid of my forehead wrinkles because somebody else doesn't like to look at it. I don't care.
I just had this conversation with my mom. My mom and my grandma, really all the women in my family, have been fastidious about their skincare, their full body skincare. And you know, my grandma's approaching 90, my mom's in her mid 60s, and myself and my sister, my aunts, you know, and everybody's just like, we really don't care. Like, this is what it is. We take care of our skin. And if somebody in my family wants to go do something to alter their appearance, it doesn't matter, right? Because it's you and your body, and you need to feel comfortable in it. And it's great that there's all of these things out there. And again, comes down to, where do I want to spend my money? Do I want to
Mhm.
spend my money on my physical appearance? Do I
Hawaii.
want to spend my money in Hawaii? Right? Like, where do I want to spend my money? That's what it comes down to. And I just, especially after bariatric surgery, the oddest thing I have noticed about myself and what I think about other people, I really I care so little about now what people do with their lives. It's just bizarre. Whereas before, I was so judgmental about people. I was so judgmental about myself. And it's almost like surgery has just allowed me to just give all that up. It's like I just realized how much of my energy and my time was spent on judging myself and others. And it's like, it really does. Why? This is the most ridiculous thing I've ever come up with in my entire life. And to just give that away has been such a release in my life. And I don't know why or how surgery did that, but it is one of the biggest things that has changed for me. And
Yeah,
it
and
sounds like,
it always amazes me how much people think other people's lives are their business. Because I choose to put my life on the internet does not mean it's any more of your business than what I choose to tell you. Yes, I put my life on the internet. Yes, I share everything. But if there's something I choose not to share, it's none of your business, period. And I get people messaging me all the time asking questions about like finances. And I'm just like, who taught you that that was any of your business? What I do
Right.
with my money is none of your concern.
that's
And
Yeah,
it's the
you
same
don't.
thing with surgery. Is like what somebody else is doing with their body is none of your business. If they want to get surgery to make themselves feel better, fine. If they're getting surgery to make other people like them better, fine. That's their business. It's not mine. It's not yours. If they choose to share it with you, they're choosing to share it with you. Other than that, mind your own.
Yeah, you don't give up your expectation of privacy just because you want to post a few things on the internet about your journey that you've been through to help other people. Like, that doesn't just throw that out the window for people to just message you and ask you anything about any kind of way. And yeah, I'm the same way. Like, whatever people are starting to do with their bodies, that's awesome. Like, I hate the skin under my eyes that I have now, but I'm not going to go out there and get it lopped off because
Exactly.
I've seen the way it looks when people get it done, and I'm not a fan. I don't, I'm not going to alter my face in any way, shape, or form. And I may end up looking like a Shar-Pei. I'm headed that way, but it is what it is. Like,
They're
I don't
cute
know.
dogs.
But between
yeah.
this little the forehead eyebrow wrinkle thing and the extra skin on the eyes, I'm headed to not having any eyes at all. So it is what it is.
Uh,
We'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
I would rather have saggy skin, weird things everywhere. I would rather live my life at a healthy weight than live at an unhealthy weight, because what was coming for me was not good. And I will take this. I will take that swap any day of the week. Any day of the week.
I'd have dead tight skin if I kept going at 468 pounds. I'd have really tight skin, but it'd be 6 feet underground or cremated by now.
Right. And I would assume I'm going to be wrinkly in a coffin. I'm going to be wrinkly. I mean, I ain't avoiding this. Whatever's coming my way, it's going to look the same no matter
Yeah,
what. So
pretty much.
I'm just going to love it, enjoy it now.
That's it.
All right, my friend. We love to give our guests their opportunity, just kind of the floor at the end of our episodes. If there was anything that you felt went unsaid, or is there any bits of wisdom or advice that you would like to give people who are maybe thinking about having bariatric surgery, or are, post-op and just looking for some encouragement, what can you pass along?
I think one of the biggest things is just to be involved in the community. A lot of people will message me and be like, "Oh, I don't know how to get involved," or I want to do this, but I don't know. It starts by messaging people. All you have to do is be involved. Find somebody that you click with, find somebody that you connect with, and start a conversation. Because that's the thing, is I have my core group of support in this community, and I lean on them for everything. And that's the most important part to me, because having a group of people who've been through this with me is invaluable. So I think that's very important. And I think the other thing that I always tell people is, again, worry about yourself. Don't concern yourself with where other people are at in their journeys. Don't concern yourself with, somebody who had surgery on the same day as you has lost 14 more pounds than you. Who cares? At the end of the day, if you're losing weight or you're maintaining weight, whatever, like that's why you did the surgery. So you didn't do the surgery to look the same as your surgery buddy. So I think, that's just where I am. And I think it's important for, people to get there if they're not there yet. And, when it comes to your skin and extra skin and loose skin, the option is there to get it removed. I certainly plan on it in the future for now. But since Cody and I do want to have kids, I'm waiting until after that, because I also have diastasis recti from my surgery. And so that's something that can only be corrected with surgery. So if I'm going to be getting that corrected anyways after pregnancy, I might as well get a tummy tuck while I'm at it. And then exactly, if the thighs and arms come with it, then that'll be great too. That's something that is a few years away though. So cross that bridge when it comes. But if skin removal surgery is not for you, then that's fine. But it's something that I'm interested, that I want to do. And so I'm going to do it. And you don't have to message me and tell me that I'm making a mistake, because it's not your body and it's not your business.
And I love your advice about how to get involved with the community. I never would have thought about that, but it really does start with a simple conversation. That's all. That's how Jason and I met. He came to one of the virtual bariatric meetups, which is what we still host at East to West. You're going to be our guest tonight at the VVM. Right? But it's the community is growing, and there are opportunities to become a member of. I mean, just by creating an account, you've become a member of the community. By reaching out to people, direct message, you're becoming a member of the community. By attending these events, right? And partaking in these discussions and these opportunities is how we do it. But it is really just as simple as a conversation. And a lot of time that gets missed. In our day and age, it's almost like we think it's more complicated than that. It's not. It's a simple conversation.
And that's it too, because, I'll get messages, people will message me, and just because what you don't connect with one person or you don't click with one person doesn't mean that your people aren't out there. First of all, expecting somebody to respond to your message is a lot of an expectation. People have lives, people are busy, especially if you're messaging people. I don't have a big following. It's not about a following for me. That's not why I do it. But if you're going to be messaging somebody with a bigger following, and then you don't get a response that you want or that you're looking for, just know you're one of thousands of people messaging them. And so if you don't make that connection with that person, that connection is out there with someone. You have to find that person. And, it's something that if you want it, you have to work for it, just like anything in your life. So, finding that connection and finding those people, do the work and find them.
Oh, such a great point. Oh my gosh. This has been a lot of aha moments in this very simple conversation, which usually is what happens here on the podcast. Oh my goodness, friend. We can't thank you enough for joining us. We know you're extremely busy human. We very much appreciate your insights, your humor, humility, and honesty. We love everything about you. Where can people connect with you? If they want to reach out to you, how can they do so?
So my Instagram is my main page, where I share literally everything about my life. It's at wanderlust.wls. I also post things on TikTok, which is just at Charity Dameron. But that's mostly just because I get bored. But yeah, other than that, my Instagram is basically where I post everything and connect with everyone.
Awesome. Well, and if you do not follow Charity already, we highly recommend that you do. Like we said, her feed and what she chooses to share is just beyond powerful. If you're thinking about having bariatric surgery, if you've already undergone the process, and it just really is a very safe place to go to see the real, to see the good, to see the bad, to see the struggles and the victories. It's all in one place. And like you said, there's no sugar coating. There's a lot of honesty. There's a lot of realness, and there's a lot of fun.
And you get to see cute kids.
You do get to see freaking adorable kids.
Yeah,
which is always a good thing. Oh my goodness. All right, Jason, my friend, you want to take us out?
Yes, ma'am. Charity, thank you again for joining us. Speaking with you and hearing your story is always extremely powerful. So thank you for sharing that with our community and the world. And we want to thank our community as a whole, because we would not be able to do what we do without you guys helping to support us just the same as we support you. So thank you for that. If you are enjoying what you are hearing and seeing, you can always leave us reviews on your favorite podcast player. On YouTube, we take reviews from any of that. You can also leave voice messages on Anchor, which we can include in the podcast for future episodes, which those are pretty awesome. We love hearing those as well. So thank you for all the ones that have already done that. And thank you for the ones who are going to do that for us in the future. We appreciate that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Amber, what about the Patreon?
Oh, so we have a very active Patreon community. If you would like to support our podcast in a different way, for $5 a month, you're literally helping us. We always say keep the lights on, but it's helping us pay for Zoom, our website. We have some amazing things in the works for this community. And if you are a patron, you are going to be a part of the sneak peek. You're going to be a part of like the beta test. So there's big things coming. So if you would like to be a part of really supporting this community in new and meaningful ways, become a patron of East to West. Just head to patreon.com/East to West WLS, and you'll see all of the information there. It's pretty cool. Charity's one of our patrons. We very much appreciate her support. We couldn't do without our patrons. You guys are amazing.
Definitely love you guys. And just remember, at the end of the day, you've got this, we've got you, and we'll see you next time.
Awesome. Thanks, Charity.
Bye.
Bye-bye.